This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Igor from the Elder Dragon Drill podcast, and this is my Alesha deck. So this is my Alesha Who Smells the Deck Death in Texas video. And as usual, we begin with the enemy. This is the enemy. See the enemy. Kill the enemy. Hate the dragon. Hate the dragon. And normally we start with some basics. Couple mountains to get us on the way so we can actually cast stuff general. Some swamps so we can cast spells that kill things. And the same goes for the plains. Now we move on to the non-basic lands. Command Tower, because any EDH deck that has more than 2 colors wants in Command Tower. Tainted Field and Tainted Peak both rely on the swamps and give us double the mana. Shadowblood Ridge is basically a signet on land. Caves of Koilos, Temple of the False God. And we go to our land fetches. Since this deck is kind of budgety, only fetches we have are the ones that search for basics, but here we are. Nice Dragon Fury Volume Wilds promo, Terramorphic Expanse, Naya Panorama, and Grixis Panorama, which all search for relevant basic lands if we pay 1 mana and tap it. Dragonskull Summit is a land that most of the time comes into play untapped, and it gives us one of the 2 relevant mana types. Scoured Barrens is a land I'm actually searching to replace because it always comes into play tapped, but 1 life can sometimes be a huge difference. So here it is, and the same goes for Inscard Crag. Nomad Outpost does come into play tapped, but it gives us all 3 mana types that we need, so that's still in the deck. Foreboding Ruins comes into play untapped basically 50% of the time, but it's a dual land that sometimes comes into play untapped, so we're keeping that. Boros Garrison and Orzhov Basilica, they bounce land, which is relevant with the next land type we use, and that's the utility lands. Temple of Silence gives us Scry, and with Boros Garrison and Temple of Orzhov Basilica, I apologize, we can get double Scry, which is nice. Mistveil Plains combos really well with Sunforger, which we'll discuss later. Bojuka Bog exiles the graveyard. Sometimes you really need to exile people's graveyards. And with the bounce lands, deleting something twice is really nice. Blighted Fen isn't relevant that often, but against Voltron decks, this can be a really nice spell. Highland Market enables us to sacrifice things, which is always good in a deck like this. Arcane Lighthouse. Sometimes opponent's creatures are cowardly and they're trying to hide between Shroud and Hexproof, and this enables us for our kill spells to actually murder them, like Ural the Miststalker or things like that. And we come to the creatures now. Mother Runes has been staple of the Death in Texas decks for years now, and there is no reason why we shouldn't use it here. It's recurable with Alesha, it gives us protection either to defend or to attack. It's basically a wonderful 1 mana creature. Viscera Seer is one part of our combo engine, which we'll discuss later, but even when we don't use it for comboing, we can just chuck guys that we don't need anymore or need their enter the battlefield abilities to scry. Talia, Guardian of Traben, is a wonderful creature that just hoses spell decks, and it can even make ramp decks slow just that 1 turn that we need. An Offensive Kindred Spirit is also part of the combo engine with Murderous Redcap and Viscera Seer, and even when it's not doing degenerate combo stuff, we can simply use it to trigger when creatures come into play from graveyard with Alesha. Blood Artist, he enables us to actually survive against bigger creature decks. Our creatures die, their creatures die, we can just kill people with this really easily. It combos also really well if you have something like my girlfriend's Prosh deck. When she has a bunch of kobolds, we have this on the field, and Ragdosh Charm, we choose the mode so that every creature deals as 1 damage to their controller. And this is basically lose-lose situation. Either she's going to die because of the tokens, or she's going to die because she's sacking the same tokens. So he's really a hard worker in this deck. Imposing Sobering is another taxing effect. And there's not a lot to say about her. She just slows creature decks. And if they have a lot of hasty guys, well, sucks to be them. Stink Scourger is a really silly goblin that tends to host creature decks that don't have a lot of creatures or have one really important guy. And with Alesha, this is basically play the guy, sacrifice it, play it with Alesha, and next upkeep this sacrifices itself, and we can get something back to opponent's hand again. Tidehollow Sculler and Fiend Hunter, they go into the same category of creatures whose enter the battlefield effects we abuse, because the enter the battlefield effect and leaves the battlefield effect are separate. So that means that when either of them come into play, we sacrifice them in response to the first ability, the second ability goes off, and since they haven't exiled anything, the first ability triggers, and then we exile something permanently. Also, if you're using a deck like this, you can also put in Faceless Butcher for the same effect. Bone Shredder is a really good murderer that kills all non-black things, and it has Echo, which enables him to sacrifice himself at the beginning of our next upkeep. He's a flyer, what more do you need for a 3-mana guy? Necrotic Sliver, apologizing for the bit of text here. He's basically a Vindicate on a stick. 3 mana, you destroy something. And then we can recur to Alesha and destroy something again. Turns out that destroying target permanents in EDH is a really fun thing. You can destroy lands, planeswalkers, creatures, enchantments, anything. Now, Big Game Hunter is the biggest, baddest guy in the whole multiverse, in my opinion, because this guy kills Bailots, kills gods, kills, Emrakuls that are wandering around, even the banned ones in EDH. He just doesn't care. He just comes, kills, and if we have some discard outlets, well, madness is here. Cunning Lethemancer, this guy, if he sticks for long enough, can be just doom against certain decks. If they don't have a really good draw engine, like Mono White, let's say, if they can't kill this guy, they're going to lose their whole hand. And we don't actually care about this disadvantage because we like to discard our own cards. Mentor of the Week is Meek is one of the biggest card draw engines in this deck. Basically, for all the little guys that we get back either by casting or by getting it back with Alesha, he grants us cards. And it's even more stupid when we have something like Assemble the Legion with 2, 3, or 4 counters. Then we can draw more cards than the blue decks, so yeah. Now, Aroa's God of Victory doesn't often become a creature because of his high devotion cost, but he enables our attacking creatures to be almost untouchable, and they have to put a lot more effort to actually block our guys. Todd Gorger, he's also one of the card draw engines in this deck, and he also enables us to discard, but be wary. If you remember the whole Fiend Hunter thing we were talking about, if they respond to his enter the battlefield trigger with killing him, we're going to have a bad time. Luckily we have Alesha, so all those cards that we actually discard, we can still use them, but be wary, be wary. Anger, this is the guy who actually just wants to be in the deck, in the graveyard. He just wants to be there, giving our guys haste, and he makes this deck run from like 0 to 60 like this. Dimir Houseguard, he's part of the combo. He can be part of the combo because he's a free sack outlet, and he also searches for 4 mana things. Plus, he's a okay beater with him, just on himself. if he gets some proper equipment because of the fear. Now this goblin, he's supposed to be Murderous Redcap, but the one Murderous Redcap I had to send to Japan to get the Japanese one, so you're going to have to bear with me. Murderous Redcap, he's a 2 and a hybrid black-red 2/2 goblin assassin. When he comes into play, he deals his damage to damage equal to his power to target creature or player, and he has persist. Now that persist, that's the important part, because he comes into play, deals, let's say, 2 damage to a target opponent. Then we sacrifice him, persist comes into play, and if we have an Offensa, the Kindred Spirit, or Kitaj Crusade, he gets a +1/+1 counter, and the -1/-1 counter and +1/+1 counter annihilate themselves, and then we do it again. And we just do it infinite number of times, or just as much as we need to kill everybody on the table. It's a pretty reliable combo, and he's not a bad creature he's just a good creature. This is the Master of Cruelties for 5 mana. He's a 1/4 demon. He has first strike and death touch, and he can only attack alone. Now that sounds like a disadvantage, and there is a reason why he can attack alone. He, when he attacks and isn't blocked, he puts defending player on 1 life. And if we have a way to get it back with, let's say, Alesha from the graveyard, and if they can't block our dudes, well, they die. This is a pretty nasty combo. A lot of you have seen it in Kalia decks and like. And this can be a really dirty way for us to finish the game really easily with some cards that we have in the deck. This is Karmic Guide. She gets dudes back from the graveyard, any dude not related to its power. It has protection from black and flying. She is a really solid creature. This is Blinding Angel. For 5 mana, she's a 2/4 with flying, and whenever she deals combat damage to a player, that player skips his entire combat next turn. If we have proper things on the battlefield, that opponent will never cast and never have combats ever again. And this is one of the best Marduk creatures ever. This is Ankleshanker. She is a 2/2 for 5 mana, she has haste, and whenever she attacks, our attacking creatures get first strike and death touch. What's there not to like? This is the way that our deck can actually defend itself against much bigger creatures. Sadistic Hypnotist is one dirty way to make sure your opponents don't have any cards in the deck. And you just sacrifice the creature, which is nice because it's a sacrifice outlet, again, Murderous Redcap. And he's just good to strip people of their hands, and we can actually target ourselves if we really need to put something in the graveyard. Sun Titan is one of the biggest beaters in the deck. He has Vigilance, and whenever he comes into play or attacks, he brings something that's a permanent with converted mana cost 3 from the graveyard. What's there not to like? Palisade Giant, he's a 2/7 for 6, and all damage that we dealt to us or our permanents is dealt to Palisade Giant. It's really fun when you make your creatures indestructible, and then some decks can't do anything, because if they don't draw their Artifact Hate or Exile spells, they're not doing anything. Netherborn Phalanx, that can finish a game against the big creature decks like Imagine Crank or something like that, or aforementioned Prosh. And this enables us to tutor 6 mana cards as well. Deathbringer Troktar can't be recurred with Alesha, but if we give this guy Death Touch and make sure something dies, which we have plenty of in this deck, we can just machine gun everything on the battlefield. Archetype of Finality, she's a really good creature that gives us our guys Death Touch, opponent's creatures can't have Death Touch, and she can be recurred with Alesha, so that's a really wonderful thing to have. And now we move on to our proper spells. Faithless Looting is one of the best sorceries we can actually cast in this deck, because we draw cards and we get to fill our graveyards with even more things. And it has nifty flashbacks, so even if we mill it somehow, we can still use it. Buried Alive is one of the things we can actually do to make sure that we have a proper combo set up. Like, we can put Master Cruelties, an Offensa, or Murderous Redcap, or anything, any of those sorts, or just a really hateful spell if we really need it. Wrath of God and Day of Judgment are just creature kill spells. You really need to kill creatures in this format, and we don't really mind our guys dying, so... Reforged Soul is a 5 mana wheel effect. Everybody discards their hand and draws 7 more cards, but we can miracle it for 1 and a red. And even if you have to sometimes pay the full cost, it's still really worth it, because we really want to fill our graveyard, we really want to draw more cards. Merciless Eviction is a one more additional red spell, but this is a red that can target either artifacts or creatures or planeswalkers or enchantments, so pick your poison. What do you hate the most? Be really careful when you cast this and choose creatures. You have to empty your board really quick to put it in graveyard. Apologize. Decree of Pain is the final red spell that we have, and this is the highest our deck can go, converted mana cost wise. We destroy all guys and draw a bunch of cards. Also, we can cycle it to give all creatures -2/-2, but to draw a card. But most of the time, we just kill our own guys. So be cautious when you use that. Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares are the definitive 1 mana kill spells in this format, so run them. Wear and Tear, we can either destroy target artifact or destroy target enchantment. It's a few spell, so it's really useful to have. You can use one, the second mode, or both of them together. Terminate just kills the thing indiscriminately. Rauter's Charm is one wonderful charm. Most of the time we use the last effect, each creature deals 1 damage to their controller, but sometimes you need to clear somebody's graveyard or destroy target artifact. It's really flexible, so that's nice in the format that we play. Crackling Doom deals 2 damage to each opponent and it hates their biggest creature. And it's an instant. What's there not to like? Mortify, for 3 mana you either kill a creature or kill an enchantment. It's flexible, it has wonderful art, run it. Return to Dust is a 4 mana instant that if we cast it on our turn we can exile 2 artifacts or enchantments. But in a pinch you can just cast it as an instant on somebody else's turn and just remove their thing if you really need it, if somebody casts a Purphoros or something and you really want it gone. Other end is basically a Vindicate on, as an instant with 1 mana higher, but it exiles the thing, so that's an upside. And this is Sol Ring. Every EDH deck, except for the French ones, should have Sol Ring, so why not run it? Altered Dementia also helps us to... We can basically, if we have Murderous Redcap and the combo in place, we can kill somebody with Murderous Redcap with damage, but this can enable us to mill the other opponent that we have. So this speeds up the game really fast. Eldrazi Monument, this is a utility card that gives our guys +1/+1. They have flying, they have indestructible, and it has a really high upkeep of sacrificing a creature. In this deck, we really don't mind sacrificing creatures, so this basically has no downside. Basilisk Scholar gives the creature Death Touch and Lifelink. It's really good with Alesha because she has First Strike. Death Touch and First Strike combined are really good, and Lifelink is really can really help us to weather the bigger creature decks. Start with the Animist, it gets a creature +1/+1, it enables us to search for more stuff when we attack, and we always want to be attacking. And with this in play, you can actually have more lands than green players, surprisingly enough. Now, Sunforger is a really special card. It does give a creature +4/+0, but most of the time, you just ignore that part and focus on this. You unattach Sunforger and search your library for a red or white instant card with converted mana cost 4 or less, and just cast it. You can do a lot of things with this, like attack with Alesha, deal 7 damage, And when they're attacking with something that's really nasty or cast a really nasty permanent, you just go for other end. Or whatever of the sources that we that we said, like Path to Exile, Wear and Tear, Terminate, Ragdo's Charm. It's a really flexible card and a really staple of any deck that has red and white in it. This is quite a spike. It gives a creature death touch, and when a card creature deals damage to defending player, that player loses half of its life rounded up. That means basically they're going to be throwing guys under your attacking creatures, and if you have some way to actually slip your guys through, as you'll see soon, we can whittle people's lives really fast. Whip of Erebos, this is both an enchantment and an artifact, so put it between those two. It gives our creatures lifelink, and in a pinch we can get a creature back from graveyard if we really need it. This is one of the staple of Alesha decks. It's Reconnaissance for 1 white mana. We can just remove attacking creature for combat, and that's it. It doesn't. You can save your Alesha from bad blocks. You can use this as pseudo vigilance after damage has been dealt. You can just untap your guys. You can get your guys back with Alesha and just make sure that they survive if you really need them. This is one of the things that makes this deck running. Now, Break to the Line is one really dirty card because it can make creature with power 2 or less, it gains haste, and it's unblockable. Now, with Master of Cruelties coming back with Alesha, it's really dirty. It's also really dirty if you have Blinding Angel or something with quite a spike in play. People just die because of this, and people underestimate this a lot. And by the time they figure out what's happening, it's already way too late. Behind the Scenes is one of the newest cards in the deck from Shadows over Innistrad, and it enables our guys to be unblockable most of the time, and after the blockers are declared, we can pay 5, 10 or however mana we have lying to make our guys bigger, so we can murder people much faster. This is Oppression for 1 and black. It's an enchantment. It says, whenever player casts a spell, that player discards a card. It goes for all players, but we don't actually care because our deck can actually survive through the discard. A lot of other decks, even especially the spell-based ones like Mizzix or something, they're going to lose their hand really fast. Oblivion Ring is it's a classical removal spell. It gets rid of anything, and as you can see, it has 2 separate triggers. So if you want to use your removal spell to kill this enchantment, sometimes you have to do it in a pinch, so that really nasty thing does never come back. Outpost Siege is a brilliant card in this deck. We mainly focus on the cons because Alesha is a con, and we don't want to use Traitorous Dragon abilities. But if you want to be a filthy traitor, you can use Dragon's ability to, ping somebody whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield. That can be good with Assemble the Legion. But the first ability, just exiling the top card of your library and being able to cast it until the end of turn, it's wonderful. A lot of times you'll be just flipping lands and you'll be giggling because you drew a really good spell after that. So play this. In any red deck that you have, play this. Now, Kitaj Crusade is... this card makes the deck running as well. With Assemble the Legion, this is stupid because you have 2, 3, 4, 5 tokens coming into play at the same time, and this checks for each of those creatures. So at the end of the day, you have bigger guys than the green player, and you have way more of them, so you can kill guys. This combos with Murderous Redcap and just creatures coming into play from Alesha attacking. Dictate of Erebos is one of the cards that you should play in black decks that have creatures, because it has flash, and whenever one of a creature dies, and they will, everybody sacks a creature. And even if they have indestructible creatures and they just ratted the whole table thinking, haha, we have Blighted Colossus, they can do anything to us, you flash this in. No more Blighted Colossus. Oh, And we lost December the Legion. This is one of the win... Shut up, you. This is one of the win conditions of the deck. If people let this on the table for far too long, and people actually will. People will leave it for like 3 or 4 turns and they'll be like, oh no, what did we do? They will die. Sheer amount of guys this thing puts out the table is just incredible. You put, on each upkeep you put a master counter, and for each of those counters you get a 1/1 guy that is red and white and has haste. Haste is really important this, because with Kitaj Crusade you have like 6/6s that have haste attacking everybody. And final card of the deck is, if I can actually pull it out, yep. Sorin Lord of Innistrad. Again, Planeswalker most people will kind of ignore, because with Planeswalkers people are usually afraid of their ultimate abilities, and in this case it's destroy 3 target creatures and or Planeswalkers, again control them, but you don't focus on that, you don't care about that. The middle ability is the most important. Creatures you control get +1/+0, and that's an emblem. That's an anthem effect they can't do anything about. Basically, you use this once. If you can get the emblem twice, you're golden. You don't care if they kill Sorin, and you just play him, play the emblem. Your creatures are that much better than everybody else's. And well, that has been the deck. I hope you enjoyed my Death and Taxes Alesha video. For more information about the deck, you can listen to me at the Elder Dragon Journal podcast, which will be linked in the video, as well as at my primer at Tapped Out. You just go there, ask me any and all questions about the deck, and I'll be sure to reply in hours' notice. Thanks for watching CMDR decks. Please like and subscribe.